So, welcome. This is going to be not Empire Wars. What am I talking about? This is a double OTC start. Brew versus ACCM in the round of 8. This is a double elimination tournament, so it's not really the quarterfinals, but it's the upper bracket round of 8. And double OTC start, we will have ACCM playing Chinese here on Double Arabia, and Indians for Brew is interesting. Previous round, Brew defeated Classic Pro, I believe, in a 3-0 manner. I don't remember who ACCM played, but he definitely won. And honestly, I'm a little bit against the civilization selection of ACCM over here. And the reason why is because Chinese is just much better on Triple Arabia. Game number 2 is going to be Triple Arabia. And as we talked about that so many times, you get the extra villagers with Chinese for each of your town centers you start with. Which means that on Triple Arabia you would get 9 extra villagers, whereas here on Double Arabia you only get 6 extra villagers. It's not a bad civ by any means, in fact it's a pretty strong one still, but it's just better suited for a free TC start instead of you know, using it on a double DC start. So, Indians on the other hand is interesting for Brew. Not necessarily a bad idea if you think about that. Indians will get cheaper villagers, which is a lot more helpful in a double TC start than it is for a single TC start, because you will have to spend a considerably lower amount of food at making villagers at the beginning, which could be super helpful. On the other hand, we'll see how useful that is going to be. I think it's useful to a certain extent, but I have my doubts. The other interesting question to ask is that Indians don't have knights, which could be a weakness. It could be a strength that they have their camels. As it appears, everything seems to work fine. We have blue and green, unfortunately, over here for us. So, let's go. Welcome, everybody. This is game number 1 in a best of 5 in between these two players. ACCM is going to rush out a mill here immediately because he's unable to find his sheep. With Chinese on the right side, and left side is going to be Brew playing as Indians in green. So what Indians give you with camels is that you will have a pretty strong force in Castle Age that can just deal with knights, and knights are probably the most common way to play Arabia in a double TC start scenario. So from that aspect, I actually like Indians. However, you don't really have that unit that can really just, you know, pack that big punch and raiding potential. So even if you get into your opponent's base with camels, they are much slower killing villagers than knights are. So the lack of knights actually hurts quite a bit here for Indians. I feel like something like Berbers, which have pretty decent camels as well, like cheap, and they also have good knights and a strong eco, would be a little bit more reasonable for Castle Age pressure. Eco-wise, I think indeed making the two TCs work is a little bit easier with the Indians here. I don't know how significant this advantage is going to be. And on the other side, Chinese, you will have the extra villagers as you take a look at this one. Now, because of the lack of food at the beginning, there is going to be some idle time on the TC, so what you see is that ACCM now only has 2 villagers lead, compared to this start with 6 extra vills for him. Cav Archers could be an option, maybe, but Chinese will eventually go for camels if that's the case. Like, Chinese have decent camels as well, and you need a lot of time to mass your Cav Archers. It's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea by any means, but it takes quite a lot of time to mass Cav Archers. I think Kaposh tried that yesterday, but ultimately died. PhD in what? I'm doing my PhD in chemistry. So, let's take a look at Brew's base. He's got a stone at the back at a quite unfortunate spot, but these wood lines are pretty decent, berries are nice, gold is okay, and it's an easy wall-off. And I think that's what matters for him. I think that, basically, you need at least one of your bases walled, because, like, let's say you play double stables. You will make your stables here, but then this base is completely defenseless, and it takes a lot of time to get military over here. Which means that you need this base walled. You need at least one of your bases walled, I believe, and you have the other one with the military buildings. For now, I think that Brew is going to have to commit a lot if he wants to fully wall his bases, so that's going to be pretty challenging for him. It takes quite a lot of time to wall all the way through the map. Sometimes players try to wall their entire side of the map, but this is just way too much commitment for Brew. Other side, ACCM, these golds are rather unfortunate for him. This gold is actually decent, but it's on hills, so it's not perfect. Stone, not so great. Open left side. One thing that makes this game, or this map, pretty reasonable for ACCM is these forests, because walling off here and here could actually allow him to wall in between the two TCs, and maybe have one big team wall, which could work out nicely. Both players are using their scouts individually right now and just looking for resource together, and it appears that ACCM is going to have some food eco problems at the beginning. Look at that. He started with 6 extra villagers, now that is just 2, because he was unable to get enough food to make both TCs working. Now he should be fine with both boars under the TC, but he's had definitely had some tough moments getting some food for himself, and apparently Brew wants to go for some very, very heavy walls over here at the beginning, or he drops the house walls. With Loom, you shouldn't really be afraid from one scout, but your opponent can just group up their scouts and go for a villager snipe, so technically there's a chance to lose villagers over here. For now, everything is peaceful. Villager idle time is basically the same for both players, but there is way less TC idle time for Brew. Look at that. 49 seconds of TC idle time for our Brazilian player, and 2.5 minutes for ACCM. Of course, Chinese have some TC idle time built into that beard order, but still, I feel like ACCM might have had a little bit more idle time than needed, probably because he didn't find his sheep over here. Maybe he was late with a boar, I don't exactly know, but his food eco at the beginning wasn't good enough to make both TCs work for the entire game so far. Anyways, this is an easy wall off here for Bro. The question is this part. Like, it's definitely wallable, but you need to commit a lot to do that. Still, this is going to be a great TC spot later on for him. Has a lot of resources at the back. So I think in terms of resource positioning, I like Brew's position a little bit better. These golds are just much better than these, for example, for ACCM. ACCM might need to drop a castle here in the future to protect that gold. Anyways, now scouts are grouped up, and it appears the ACCM wants to take this engagement. Brew just running away for now. By the way, Assassin Ostrich is the other account that Bro is using. Sometimes he's using Bro, sometimes he's using Assassin Ostrich, but he's mostly known as Bro, so I'm referencing him as Bro. Anyways, for now, he's just running away. He might try to turn around and take this fight with the hill advantage, but for now, he's just running, and he's losing quite a lot of HP on those scouts, but he's on the way towards Feudal Age, whereas ACCM isn't. Which means that once he gets to Feudal Age, he can take this fight if he wants to, or just run back to the TC, make sure he keeps those scouts alive, and add 1 or 2 more scouts in Feudal Age so he can make a push. Now, this is a rather fast Feudal Age for a double TC start. He's not going to have the eco to click up into Castle Age immediately, which means that we are going to see an extended use of scouts here from him, whereas for ACCM, I feel like he's going more like a fast castle type of an approach here, adding villagers to gold even before clicking up to Castle Age, or to Feudal Age, pretty much means that you probably want to click up right after reaching Feudal. So we'll see if that's going to work out for ACCM, because he's going to be under heavy pressure from some scouts from Brew. Barax is being rushed up over here, and where's the stable going to be placed at? Interesting location, not sure why he's doing it over there. Maybe he wants to wall this one off ultimately, but then he could have placed the barracks over here a little bit more to the front. Now those scouts will have their +2 attack and their speed advantage, so they could try and pick off villagers. Indeed, ACCM is going to notice that these villagers are just randomly isolated from the others, and you can already do quite a lot of damage. Hill advantage is there as well for Brew. That's going to be 1 villager dead. Nice kill to start the day with for Brew. And as I said, he's going to have an extended use of scouts over here, even adding some spears to the party. Now, he's going to lose 2 sheep over here. That sometimes happens in double TC stars. There is just so many sheep to scout that sometimes you miss some of those. It happens. Anyway, ACCM is almost up as well, so he could try to pick off a villager here as a revenge. He still has a decent villager lead, even though by the time he gets up to Feudal Age, that's going to be like 3 or 4 villagers only. But still, that's a decent villager lead to take a look at. Looking at the technologies, you already have Horse Collar and Double Bit Axe as well for Brew, but if you look at his food income, he is far away from Castle Age, whereas for ACCM, he already has the food to click up. So he's just going to rush out a Blacksmith, probably a stable as well over here indeed, and when that happens, he's going to be clicking up to Castle Age. So the problem here for ACCM is that he's going to be under heavy pressure on this base, and look at this. There is absolutely no military buildings over here, so it's going to be insanely hard to defend against these scouts unless you quick wall your villagers, which is something ACCM isn't really doing right now, so he could lose 1 or 2 vills here pretty easily. There is not even a single spearman defending against this aggression. He is probably just going to try and take this fight but this is not ideal for him. For now, one villager is lost in the process and a lot of idle time is forced. Still, ACCM is on the way towards Castle Age, and that's not something that should be underestimated. The knights can do quite a lot of damage in early castle, and ultimately might compensate for some of those villagers getting killed. It appears ACCM is also trying to harass Bruce gold mine. Oh, that's a beautiful pickup for ACCM. He can easily snipe that villager. He has lost quite a lot of villas over here, though. That's another one going down as more and more scouts come in. ACCM is making spears, but the barracks is over here, so this takes so much time. This is why I said that you need the base that you do not have any military buildings at walled. Otherwise, you will just be under constant pressure and you will need a lot of time to get military up here. Now that the spearman arrives, I think ACCM is going to be fine, but he's behind by 3 villagers, even though he's almost up to castle. And when that happens, he can just go and get some knights out. Bro is trying to wall his base over here, but like, that's a huge commitment. So that's one villager picked up by ACCM. Nice use of those scouts from him. And now it appears that Bro is going to switch focus towards the other base of ACCM. ACCM is down to 53 villagers, make it 52. On the other side, he's trying to pick up some votes from Bruce. I think Bro actually had a better fuel age than ACCM had over here, and Bro is going to go up to Castle Age, but you have Castle Age already for ACCM, and he's going to start opening with Knights. And since the base of Bro on the right side is still wide open, the Knights will just gallop in right away. Spearman is going to be fine defending over here, so I don't think that there's going to be a lot more villagers killed. Bro is trying to snipe the villager that has a lot of food on it, but most of those scouts are weak, so that's not gonna happen. Look at the amount of map control that Bro wants for himself. He wants to, like, wall off 1/4 of the map. This is, like, actually 1/3 of the map. Like, this is the 2nd third, and this is the 3rd third over here. It's like 30% of the map walled off here for Bro. By the way, there is an opening over here, and I still don't like this type of walling. I think he wanted to wall like this, but he just didn't have the time to do that. And now one of his bases is still wide open, loses another villager over here. ACCM has been using those scouts perfectly. So many villagers killed with just 2 scouts, and now the knights are coming. There is still an opening over here, so this doesn't really help, to be honest. Like, knights can still pass over here, knights can still pass over here. Now he's trying to wall that one off, but that seems a little bit too late. He's almost up to Castle Age, so he can start making knights. There is one stable over here, one over here, which means that it's going to take quite a lot of time until he gets the camels from this stable to this position, so he's gonna rush up another one over here. So he's gonna have military production over here at this base, but he needs to make sure that this, like this one is walled off and like this one is walled off, so the knights cannot just run inside the other base. One villager goes down over here from Bro as well, and now ACCM takes the lead in terms of villager count. He is just flooding out knights, and is there a hole there? Or what? Nope, there is no hole just yet, but they could just bash their way through the palisades, because, like, Bro doesn't have a villager close enough that could repair the palisades in time. That's the danger that you are taking when you're walling this far away, that you're just not gonna have the time to get here and repair the walls in time. Knights will run inside, camels chasing to try and stop them for the time being, but this is looking bad for Bro now. He's falling behind in economy. On the other hand, ACCM has Boso. Look at that, Boso, heavy plow. He's got +1 armor, he's getting wheelbarrow as well, whereas for Bro, he doesn't have the Castle Age eco upgrades. He's gonna have the camels over here, but not a single upgrade on those. That's just the Indian bonus with the extra pierce armor. Still, it's going to be camels versus knights, so Bro should be able to hold. And the appropriate response here from ACCM would be to either just start switching towards Chukonus, which is something he's doing right now, or potentially add his own camel so he can trade evenly. For now, he apparently just takes the eco approach, keeps up the pressure on Bro with a few knights raiding. He's got a nice and comfy 4 villagers lead, and he also has both of the food and wood Castle Age upgrades. So now he can probably secure that hill with a castle very soon with 9 villagers on stone, and start transitioning to Chukonus. Knights also bashed their way in here. I'm not sure where the villager went. There was a villager here that was supposed to repair this, but I guess 1 villager is not enough against 4 knights, and boy oh boy, look at this. All the villagers have to run back to the TC over here because there is no camels defending. 2 camels coming back right now, but some of them are pretty low HP. Luckily for Bro, ACCM's knights only have +1 pierce armor, so the TC fire is actually doing quite a significant damage, but ACCM is growing his villager lead more and more because his eco is untouched, whereas for Bro, he's like trying to survive right now. 1 more villager could be picked off, camels finally come back, but this is the problem here for Bro. He's defending this base right now with the camels, but now the other one is going to be exposed. And behind this, ACCM has a pretty decent boom. He is on 4 TCs right now. Brew is just dropping TC number 3, if I'm not mistaken. No, TC number 4. Still, that's already a 10 villagers lead. And no heavy blow either for Bro. So the eco is also better for ACCM over there. Some knights over here on the other base trying to pick off some villagers. These camels could just turn back and fight this, but there's a few monks that could get the conversions. Hey Funkraut, what's up? So, some more knights on the way, and as I said, ACCM can just make his own camels to take this one. He's got the extra armor as well, whereas for for Brew, he doesn't have any upgrades on those camels right now. Food and gold villager count is pretty much even for both players, but Brew is losing way too much, and he's just unable to touch ACCM's eco. Now it's a 17 villagers lead for ACCM. So, it started out good for Brew. The problem here is that he was just unable to fully wall his bases, and all the commitment that he had to these walling is just completely useless right now for him, because there is still knights in his eco. So, he invested a lot into those walls, but those walls didn't protect anything. Now, that being said, here come a few camels, but they will just be scared away by monks. 2 conversions are there. ACCM even makes a quick wall. That's a perfect defense from ACCM over there. And for now, it seems like ACCM is in the driver's seat pretty confidently. In this one, monks are helping quite a bit, and that's going to be a castle being dropped here by ACCM to protect his gold mines. And soon he's gonna have Chukanus out on the field, and his own camels are just trading evenly against Brew. Since he has a way better eco behind this one, he can just afford to trade evenly here. Brew might need to add a few spearmen. I think he already added a few, but those will just die to the Chukanus as well. I don't think that Brew is gonna have the answer to the Chukanu switch here. Eventually, this is going to be a rather even trade and a cleanup, but even then, we're talking about a huge eco lead now for ACCM. Camels are in as well, and I feel like ACCM is going to take game number 1 over here. Once again, I feel like Brew might have been a little bit too ambitious with his walls. Maybe if he walls like this, and this, it would have been a little bit easier, and then this base is a little bit safer, because all these walls, I think, were a little bit too ambitious for him. He was just unable to protect those. And he wasn't able to repair this wall, and they just got through there, and now both of his bases are exposed to raiding. He's down to 87 villagers. Now, technically he is not completely dead, but he will eventually become dead very soon. ACCM is getting close to clicking into Imperial. He's gonna have a second castle over here, or maybe even over here, if he wants to finish the game fast. And eventually the Chukanu switch is going to kill Brew here. Or at least, well, that's something that should kill Brew now. Brew has quite a lot of camels, and you should never underestimate the strength of Indian camels. If Brew wants to win this game, he needs to take a fight in the next 1 or 2 minutes, because ACCM is going to commit a lot of resources to going up to Imperial. So Brew might have the temporary military advantage, and Indian camels can actually snowball a game pretty fast, because they have quite a decent building attack bonus, so they can go take down TCs rather fast. But Brew needs to fight this one in the next 1 or 2 minutes before ACCM reaches Imperial. Quite a lot of camels in the party as well, and ACCM is playing pretty damn solid here. So, you got the camels pushing, you got the monks pushing, and apparently a Cav Archer switch is going to happen here for Brew. I don't think he's gonna have the time for that. His eco is quite a bit behind compared to ACCM's eco, and he needs a lot of time to switch into Cav Archers. Needs fletching, needs a university for ballistics, he needs Thumbring for that. Not sure why, like, eventually this is fine for ACCM. He's knocking down the stable to prevent Brew from making more camels, but he could just run in here if he wanted to, so I guess the real target is still the stable. And as long as this hole is on the walls, these knights can just run inside and start killing villagers on wood lines. Brew apparently is too busy fighting this. Here come the camels and here come the monks. One fight for the game for Brew here, trying to get something out of this. Now, he kills most of those monks. Those didn't get, like, any conversions, I think. That was huge. And Brew is now switching into Cav Archers. He's still far away from Imperial though, and with farmers being lost over here at this TC, it's going to be insanely hard for him to get up to Imperial. If you look at Capture Age right now, that's a brand new feature of the new Capture Age. You actually see the bars filling here. The solid part of the bar tells you how significant percentage one player has from the resources that are required to go up into the next age. So what you see here is that this bar is full with yellow, which means that the gold is enough for Brew. He has more than 800. Food, getting close as well. He wants to click up, I believe. I think he just realized that his opponent is already up. And indeed, bro is going to click up here. He's behind by 20 villagers, and there is a massive hole on his walls. Blast Furnace Plate Mail coming in, and I wouldn't even be surprised to see heavy camo here for ACCM. He just has very, very low gold count right now. But yeah, Blast Furnace and Plate Mail, or Plate Barding, pretty much means that he wants to go for camos instead of Chukunas at the beginning, and he wants to get a foothold inside the base of Brew here. If this castle goes up, Brew is dead. He's already, like, having a less than 20% win chance. Now, that's actually a pretty good raid. ACCM losing quite a lot of villagers here. But how is Brew going to stop this? Quite a lot of camels with heavy camel upgrade coming in here very soon, and the castle in his face. I don't see Brew stopping this. Now, that being said, that's quite a lot of cav archers that are being massed, and camos aren't particularly amazing at dealing with large amounts of cav archers. So, for now, it appears Bro just wants to raid, tries to weaken the eco as much as possible. But yeah, once the upgrades kick in for these camos, I don't know how Bro is going to stop these. He will have to camp inside the TCs, and that's going to be a lot of idle time for him. And this castle is also going to go up. Cav archers will come in, but look at that, fletching only, no Botkin arrow. I don't think that these guys have ballistics or thumbring. We can actually check out. Yeah, no ballistics, for example, for Bro. So you're not gonna beat a bunch of heavy camos with all the imp upgrades with just a few Castle Age cav archers that are lacking thumbring. And thumbring is very important for cav archers because if you don't have thumbring, they're just gonna miss quite a lot of shots. So it's actually more important than for cav archers than it is for foot archers. Like, Bro is trying his best here, but he's getting out-teched here quite massively. And, yeah, once the Imperial Age upgrades kicked in for ACCM here, I don't see the chance. Like, he just lost all of his camos fighting against ACCM's camos here, trying to run away, get into Imperial. But he's got multiple castles in his face. It's just a downhill fights from here. So, like, cav archer's trying to run away over here as he's going to bump into his sheep. And Bracer, Town Watch coming in, still no ballistics, still no thumbring, and yeah, Bro is just going to call it. Understandable. I feel like the key part was that he was just going for a very ambitious wall, but he didn't have the time to finish it. Indian cav archers? Yes, Indian cav archers are okay. Those are actually pretty decent. So, the thing is that the Feudal Age raids were great from Brew, but he was just unable to weather the storm in early Castle Age. That pretty much sealed the deal. The opening here on these walls hurt so much for him. I'm not sure if he just didn't notice this or what, or didn't have the time to address it. But knights were just flooding into his left-hand side base, and he had to just constantly run back from the right side to the left to protect his eco here. And he just lost way too many villagers. Had he not lost this many villas, I think his imp time could have been comparable to ACCM's, and this could have been a little bit closer game, but he just lost way too much eco in early Castle Age to catch up with ACCM. Yeah, indeed, they are pretty much fully upgraded Cav Archer. No bonus, but those are fully upgraded CA. So Indians Cav Archer is actually pretty legitimate. But yeah, that 4-minute difference in imp time really hurts, and I assume eco is way better as well for ACCM. Especially this one, 5,000 extra food hurts so much. Also 3,000 extra stone for ACCM. So ACCM played pretty well in this one. He went for the more ambitious fast castle type of a strategy. And Bro's scout opening actually was pretty scary for ACCM for some time. But at the end of the day, the fast castle pretty much worked out for ACCM. Alright, let's see if there is the second lobby up. Hello, AOE2.net, please. I would appreciate if this thing loaded, so we can check out the lobby ID. So next game is Triple Arabia. Now, remember that ACCM used up his Chinese over here, which is a super strong civ in a double TC start scenario. This is the time for Brew to use his Chinese. The free TC start is exactly what you're reserving your Chinese for And indeed, we are going to have an interesting mirror. Apparently, this is where ACCM thinks that Chinese are the best, or Indians are the best. So we had a Chinese versus Indians matchup on Double Arabia. We're going to have one on Triple Arabia here as well, just the other way around. We will have ACCM using Indians and the Chinese for Brew. Interesting. So ACCM wants to play with the cheaper Voyagers. That is super helpful at a free TC start. Yet, I'm not so convinced about them, to be honest. I mean, it's nice and everything, but having a 9 Voyagers advantage at the beginning with the Chinese, if you play your Dark Age right, in a triple TC start with the Chinese, which is super hard, by the way, then you are going to have a huge eco lead over Indians. So, as much as I liked the Chinese in a previous game against Indians for ACCM, I actually like the Chinese here against Indians a lot more for Bro. Just because you are going to have an even bigger eco bonus than what ACCM had in the previous game. We will have game number 2 coming in here. So, boom. Let's see what we have. We are going to have, on the right side, Bro is playing a Chinese in green. And on the left side of the map, we are going to have ACCM playing blue. And, well, this is Triple Arabia. One thing I noticed is that this is actually closer to Cenotes in terms of look and in terms of like the size of forests and all the ponds. So this is a little bit harder to wall than the Double Arabia generation they're using for this tournament. So quickly take a look at the bases. One thing that stands out is that ACCM's third base is very far away and isolated from the other two. The other two are very nicely close together, like super close. But this third one is so exposed, and that's going to be a huge issue for ACCM because defending this one is going to be insanely hard. It's just so far away from the others. He also has these gold mines on the front, as well. Not so great for our Vietnamese player, if you ask me over here. And this is what I said. You're going to have a 9 Voyager advantage for Chinese to start with. You really need a good Dark Agent, really good macro at the beginning to really get a good use of those. But if you can actually keep like a 6, 7, 8 Voyager lead throughout Dark Age, something that Brew is doing. Look at that. 22 to 15 is the Voyager lead. He's able to keep that distance, and having 7 extra Voyagers at this stage of the game is just a so huge boost to your eco. So it really comes down to, can you actually have a good enough macro to keep all 3 TCs working, have a sustainable food income that allows you to make all TCs work, have enough wood income to be able to drop houses, because that's also something that needs to be considered. You need a lot of houses very fast over here. Apparently Brew has all of those ingredients, and he is able to keep a 7 Voyagers distance, and that's like massive. 7 Voyagers lead already is just an absolute brutality. Get it? Brutality. Now, is he gonna lame himself with his own sheep? Apparently not. But here comes the first board for him. That's probably the ugliest sheep kill I've ever seen, but eventually that was just a mistake from Bro. He actually sent the Voyager back. He was just too slow doing that because he was probably focusing on other stuff as well. But I really want to credit his macro for being able to keep 3 TCs working. Bro is actually a pretty decent player in deathmatch, so his macro is actually pretty sharp. And he did not expect ACCM to have a TC over here, apparently, because he's just going to run into the TC fire, losing quite a lot of HP on that scout. Luckily for him, there wasn't really a lot of Voyagers around that TC, so he's not going to lose that scout. Now, important to note, you are going to start with 3 scouts over here, which allows you to do quite a lot of damage in Dark Age, or just save those 3 scouts up for Feudal Age. Something that we have seen in Triple Arabia quite frequently is that players are just going for pretty much a fast castle build and use their 3 scouts to still pick off Villagers, because this is basically 3 scouts, what you would start with if you would play a scouts build on standard 1v1 Arabia. So 3 scouts can actually do quite a lot of damage. Now that Brew has lost quite a lot of HP on that scout, it's not so great for him anymore. But with that in mind, his food eco is looking great. He has a 7 Voyagers lead and he can keep that distance, and that's beautiful for him. He also has quite a lot of nice resources at the back, even though this gold and stone mine is absolutely horrendous. But this one is actually pretty good. Nice DC spot over here for a future for him. This base is a little bit too open on the right side for him. So as much as this base is bad for ACCM, this one is also pretty bad for Brew, if you ask me. But other than that, I think that what is going to be a huge factor here is the eco lead that Brew is going to have. So, for now, ACCM dropping lumber camp at the back wood line over here. No sign of Feudal Age from either player just yet. No sign of vultures on gold just yet either, so none of them will click up to Feudal Age anytime soon. And apparently Bro is gonna get housed. As I said, this is so hard to do. One of the best saves for double TC start is actually Huns, because you just don't need to make houses, which is a huge advantage. Alright, here comes Feudal Age for Ace or for Bro, and honestly, him sending 5 vultures to stone is a pretty strong indicator that he wants to go for immediate Castle Age click up. He's got 28 on food, which should be enough to get the food required to click up to Castle Age over here. Although, that being said, I am pretty sure he actually missed out on some of his huntables, like boars. Because I didn't see him taking boars at this TC or this one. That doesn't mean that he didn't do it. But yeah, apparently he brought in all of his huntables. That's actually a pretty good job then for him. So, gets housed once again. Yeah, I think he's gonna have the food eco, even though he's running out of sheep pretty fast over here, so it's going to be a little bit of a borderline case. He might need to send out a few vultures for deer. We're going to see. But anyways, he's roaming around with his scouts, and his Feudal Age time is going to be way better than that of ACCM's. He might run into the TC fire here, but there is no vultures to jump inside the TC, so that doesn't really matter. And honestly, he's just looking for a vulture to catch that is moving away from the TC, like this wood line or something like that. And indeed, looking at the Brew, he might need to idle his TCs a tiny bit to be able to click up to Castle Age immediately. But goes Blacksmith and Stable on the right hand side. And now he might be looking for vultures to kill on this base, maybe? ACCM, on the other hand, getting ready to get up into Feudal Age, and he has actually caught up in terms of vulture numbers quite nicely. So being housed actually hurt quite badly for Brew here, and he's gonna catch quite a lot of vills here. That's one of the low HP vills. Is he gonna spot the villager? Nope, he doesn't spot the low HP vill here, but he will still engage, and that could be at least one villager killed, and he could try sniping the other one as well. Scouts coming back here for ACCM, but this is perfectly fine for Brew. He just wants to make sure those scouts don't hit him right now, because he's getting ready to click up to Castle Age over here. He even gets a market out. So apparently he doesn't really have the food to click up immediately, so he wanted to go for a market. Turns out that he's gonna have enough food by the time that market goes up. But still, he had to idle his TCs for some time, but he will still have a way better Castle Age time than ACCM. The problem is that ACCM still has 35 vultures on food, whereas for Brew it's only 15, so he's gonna have to like mass add farms, and he is doing so without Horse Collar, which is a bit of a problem for him. You don't want to add huge amount of farms without Horse Collar, so that's just not great. He might need to idle his TCs a little bit more to get Horse Collar in here. I mean, with Chinese, adding farms without Horse Collar isn't that big of a deal, because you get the extra food still from the Civ bonus to your farms, but it's not ideal, let's say. And you can see that he cannot even squeeze out double bit axe right now, just because he doesn't really have the food eco, so he kind of ran out of juice over here, rushing out quite a lot of vultures to Stragglers so he can get some farms out. Not great for Brew over there. And apparently there is one more scout alive here for ACCM. Brew is going to make a scout himself, so he can take this fight. ACCM is on the way to Castle Age as well, but here the key thing for Brew is that he needs to make the first 2 or 3 knights, and then he can start raiding the eco of ACCM, and he should be fine with that. So Bloodlines is coming in. Interesting decision to go Bloodlines here when you don't have double bit axe. I mean, it's going to help you, but I'm not sure if that's really something that you need immediately. Because eventually your knights will still be strong without Bloodlines at the beginning against Feudal Age units. Well, there isn't even any units here for ACCM, so any kind of knight here would do sufficient damage. And you probably want to prioritize the eco upgrades a tiny bit more. Probably gold upgrade would be nice as well for Brew. Anyways, he is up to Castle Age. He decides to go for the Bloodlines while he's upping, and he's gonna have 2 stables on each side of the map. This is an interesting layout. So he's not really going to be able to mass an army on either side very fast. On the other hand, he will be able to raid on both sides. So one thing that's key here for him, he needs to make sure that his own eco is safe and he just doesn't allow ACCM to mass an army. Because if ACCM is allowed to mass an army on one side, he's just gonna steamroll the base of Brew. That's the first vulture picked off here. Brew doesn't have the armor upgrades right now on those knights, but his food eco is back on track, and now he's idling quite a lot of vultures from ACCM. The first knights are doing so much damage, and it's the same thing over here at this side. Just one knight on that wood line can be so devastating. as there is still a hole over here at ACCM's base. Nice quick horse for now, but all of this farming eco is denied, at least for the time being. Knight is hitting the villagers. Villager count right now is dead even between the two players, but look at ACCM. He's got the stables over here. He's making camos to try and fight against the knights, but he's got both of his stables in the middle, so it's going to take forever for him to get to this side and defend, and to get to this side as well. So Brew is doing an excellent job just raiding the hell out of ACCM's base, and you already see the TC dropped on the stone, so eventually you are going to see a transition into Chukonus from the Chinese player, and that's already TC number 4 as well for ACCM. Now that the knights are in here, he's going to lose a few villagers on the gold, but I think what matters is the camel that is going to clean this one up. For now, Brew just needs to keep raiding, try to hit different bases at the same time, because then ACCM is going to have a hard time catching up with all those knights. He has all the military production over here in the middle, as Unexpected Paladin is coming back unexpectedly for 9 months of support. Thank you so much for the resub, welcome back. Congrats for the Twitch, baby. And now, Bro is gonna go for his own camels. He's got slightly stronger eco right now. He's putting on the pressure, so he can just afford to go for his own camels. He's got +1/+1, whereas for ACCM, he has no upgrades on those camels other than bloodlines, which means that Brew is going to be able to win a fight with even numbers of camels, and he's also the one applying the pressure, so I think that's perfectly fine for him. Trying to deny this TC, not really going to happen, but you can see the idle time on ACCM's wills. 58 minutes of idle time combined for ACCM's wills, just 21 minutes for Brew. So Brew's eco is just a lot more efficient right now, because ACCM is forced to idle a lot of villagers on the farms, maybe on the wood lines. He needs to defend so much here, and this just allows Brew to technically pull ahead in eco, even though he's not doing that right now. He's actually behind by 4 villagers, which is a little bit surprising for me. ACCM will be playing with 5 TCs for the time being. Brew has just 4. So for now, I think what Brew wants to do is just keep away the camos of ACCM with his own camos and try to get the knights to get some killing done. 50 villagers on food already for Brew though, so if he just forces ACCM to defend here and fight, he's going to be able to stop producing camos for a brief moment and click up into Imperial. I think that is something he's considering already. With 50 villagers on food, you can go up to Imp pretty fast, and considering how low the stone count is for Bro, did he already drop a castle, or he just didn't have villagers on stone? Apparently he didn't have villagers on stone just yet, but he wants to start transitioning into Chukonus. Indeed, there is a stone mining upgrade for him. Second stone mining upgrade and handcart is also coming in, and as I said, sometimes players just miss boars on a free TC start because there is so many things to do, including this boar over here that was just not taken by ACCM. Not the best fight ever for Brew, but he wants to take a fight around the villagers probably. See, this is a beautiful one. He forces the fight over here, but also detaches a few camels to hit the wood line. Just a few villagers picked off, but that's still nice. Now, that being said, ACCM's cheaper villagers are kicking in here quite hard, and ACCM's macro here is extremely sharp. 124 villagers we're talking about against 114. Bro is getting a lot of upgrades, but this is going to delay his imp time, and I'm not sure if you want to get iron casting here as well for your camels when you're clearly switching to Chukonus now with 16 villagers on stone. Battering rams coming in here though, and military numbers are still favoring Brew quite heavily. He's got +2 attack in a matter of seconds, whereas for ACCM, it's just +1/+1, I believe, for him. Actually, +1 armor is just coming in for ACCM, so he took some quite bad engagements over there because his camos were way worse in terms of upgrades compared to Brew. And there's just so much idle time on ACCM's eco. Look at all the idle time, just growing and growing. He has to garrison the villagers inside the TC here, because the camels, knights are raiding, battering rams are on the way from Brew, and he is getting ready to click into Imperial here. Right side looks pretty peaceful. There is no overchop from ACCM over here, so this is a nice little base. I think Brew is just going to castle drop this hill eventually, so he can secure these 2 gold mines for himself, and he's going to have a nice hill position over there. And ACCM will have to come back with his camos, take this fight, but I think this TC might go down, and that's an aggressive castle. Not sure if this is going to go up for Brew, because there's quite a lot of camos coming in here. It remains to be seen. The TC still stands. ACCM will have to do some repairs on this one. And one of the rams goes down, the TC goes down as well, but there is still quite a lot of camos for ACCM. This might be a doubt castle. This might end up being a doubt castle because there's quite a lot of camos over here for ACCM to take this fight. Castle coming up at 60% right now. Not a lot of villagers building it either, but apparently reinforcements from Brew might actually be able to edge this one out here. Getting close. 80%. You have... Oh, nope. That's doubt castle. That was a little bit too ambitious from Bro. Maybe if he makes it on this hill, it could have been different. But that is going to be denied at 90%. And ACCM could just pull a few villagers and wall this one in immediately. Because reinforcements of camos are coming in here, slow and steady. But apparently ACCM is diverting all his forces to stop this castle. Now, that is still not ideal for ACCM because considering that he has to send everything he has over here to deny this castle, he is now getting his eco rated here with knight and camels. He's dropping down in villagers to 106. And this looks like a game for Brew, because ACCM is going to be below 100 villas. He's having 28 villagers on food, now back to 40. But a lot of those villagers on the farms were idle for so long, and this is going to allow Brew to just outmass ACCM in terms of camel numbers. Brew is actually having the food income to click up into Imperial. It's the lack of gold that is hurting him quite hard over here. So... yeah, if he would have a little bit more villagers on gold, he would be able to go up into Imperial already, get heavy camel and just decide this engagement. But even now, he's gonna have the castle up and he's slowly pushing ACCM back. Plus, you also have this gold man over here. Brew could find at any moment and just kill the villagers over there. Some camels trying to get through the walls here as well. And ultimately, the military counts are even, but look at the population. Just 20 pop lead for Brew. And also huge eco lead. With the castle going up, Chikanus will start coming out, and now Brew is apparently going to try and finish that castle. Not a lot of villagers in here, though. So once again, this is going to be an interesting effort, just sending out villagers one by one to do this. Imperial Age on the way, though, for him, whereas ACCM is not even close to clicking up. So eventually, this castle is gonna go up. And indeed, it goes up. ACCM is going to lose that gold mine, and he could lose a lot of villagers as well if he doesn't evacuate that immediately. And, well, if Imperial Age kicks in, Brew has basically everything that he needs to win this game. He might not even need Imp here, because he's in a pretty decent position. Now transitioning to Chukanu is something that ACCM might struggle to stop right now. And apparently, as I said, double castle drops over here. One on this table is once again a little bit too ambitious to my taste, because ACCM is going to spot that and he could stop this one with no military for Brew. I guess he just wants to force ACCM to fight over here with everything he has, but just one camel could stop this castle. Same thing over here, that's a little bit too ambitious as well from Brew. This could have been doubt castles if ACCM notices them and he has some military around, but apparently ACCM didn't have enough to be able to stop this. ACCM is going to try to take the villager fight, and he might succeed at doing so. If Brew gets like 2 or 3 knights in here, he should be fine getting this up, but indeed... this might have been a little bit too ambitious to do without any supporting military. All the camels from ACCM trying to maybe get a TC snipe and get some eco damage done. It could be possible, as Brew has a lot of idols right now, 27 idols compared to 6. And those camels could still do quite a lot of damage on Brew's eco. But on the other hand, if you take a look at the left side, look at the ACCM, he's got 23 villagers on this stone mine, trying to get enough stone for a castle. But it's Imperial against Castle Age. And indeed, ACCM realizes that eventually when the upgrades kick in for Brew, he's gonna have all the tools needed to win this game. +4/+4 and heavy camo is just gonna clap those camos, and you would have this castle go up, which means that this base is cut off from gold. This base overall is so isolated that it would just get pretty much destroyed. Left hand side base is also looking pretty grim. So with that in mind, Brew evens things out, and we have an even series over here in this best of 5. Looking at the stats, we should see way better eco for Brew, I believe. Indeed, where is that? So, 21k food against 16,000. It's actually 16666. That's nice. But way more gold, way more wood. Villager High was also better for Brew, but I think it was more about having more villagers in the majority of the game than ACCM did. At some point, ACCM had the eco lead, but like until Castle Age, Brew had a massive eco lead. Like 7-8 villagers consistently is huge. This also allowed him to go for way better Castle Age times, for example, and eventually propelled him to just overrun ACCM with larger amounts of camels and also get up to Castle or Imperial over here. And that is an equalizer over here in between the two players. Alright, so now we're gonna have game number 3. Game number 3 is a random map from the map pack of the tournament. There is quite a lot of maps in the map pack, so I'm not sure which is the one we're going to see. It's pretty hard to just make a guess because there is like 20-25 maps, so you can't just say, okay, there is like a 1/8 of a chance that it's going to be Gold Rush or something like that. There's so many maps. So it is going to be a random map, but also random mirror civilizations. So first 2 games, those were preset maps, and the players played their preferred civilizations. Now it is random map with random mirror civilizations. Now, random mirrors is something that I think Brew is going to be super familiar with. He plays a lot of deathmatch tournaments, and well, random mirrors is a pretty common thing in deathmatch tournament. In fact, in the majority of the cases, they are playing with random mirrors. They are getting ready to start the game right now, if I'm not mistaken. So in just a brief moment of time, we should have the game up, and we can see what the map... Well, actually, we're not going to see the map. We're just going to see the civilizations, because map is just going to say it's a map pack map until we actually jump inside. So it's going to be a little bit of a mystery for us. Alright, we have the game up. So we have a Cuman mirror now. That is super interesting, and probably one of the most useless civilizations in Double Cup is actually Cumans, because you are not allowed to build a third town center in Feudal Age. If you start with 2 TCs at Cumans, you will be with 2 TCs until you reach Castle Age. So the Cuman ability to build an extra TC in H2 is just completely useless in double TC starts. So probably one of the most useless and one of the worst civilizations in double TC start is Cumans because of that. Well, there is still some other civs that could be worse than them, but they pretty much lose their entire eco bonus. So I do assume that they are probably quite bottom tier in this matchup. All right. So, oh, you learned that the hard way on Budapest? Yes, indeed. Like, it's interesting because, for example, Chinese get their extra villagers for every town center they start with, whereas Cumans aren't allowed to build a third town center if they start with 2. So, some civilizations get their bonuses in double TC starts, some do not. So it's a little bit inconsistent. And we will have game number 3 coming up over here. I'm curious how this map is going to look like, because you can see it says map pack, but eventually we're going to figure out which map it is. I think NAC might have used, or no, it was Deathmatch World Cup that used random map from map pack, I believe. And holy smokes, what is this map? Trade Workshop. Is this going to do anything over here for players, or is it just cosmetics? I have no idea how the map is called, because you can see it's map pack, as Dave Hun is actually raiding with 26 people. Thank you so much, Dave. Welcome. For everybody who is just joining in. So, this might be the Gobi map that is played in game number 5 in Empire Wars. This Trade Workshop doesn't seem to do anything. Like, you can see the resources increasing. So I do assume that they don't have a role like Fatorias do. So this feels like just cosmetics with a bunch of carpets, trade cards, and whatnot. So a lot of cosmetics on these maps. Honestly, that's something I noticed with these tournaments maps, that there's just so many unnecessary things on the maps. I'm not sure why they did that. Like, there is a map that has like those random grass thingies growing up, and it's so hard to just look at. Like, you need useless plants remover and whatnot to be really able to take a look at this. Anyways, Cumans for both players, which means that you're gonna be on 2 TCs until you reach Castle Age. You will not be able to build another one anytime soon. And, well, eventually the game is going to escalate just as, basically the same as the previous games did. Might actually see some scouts, but probably the key thing is going to be knights and potentially camos, maybe step lancers. Now, Cumans have slightly faster cavalry, which helps quite a bit when you're trying to get some raiding damage in. And the other thing to notice is that there isn't really great wood lines. Like, this is actually a legit lumber camp spot in between two of these little, you can't really call these forest thingies, but basically those, almost impossible to avoid this map. So this is going to be an interesting one to take a look at. I feel like you could try going for a heavy feudal age pressure with scouts, because the map is so open that you can just probably kill 10-15 villagers on the wood line, or you can gamble for an FC, because if you get to a slightly faster castle age than your opponent and you can get a few knights out, those will be even more devastating. But if you FC yourself, you're in the danger of losing quite a lot of vills to a scouts play. So I feel like scouts play is a little bit safer, but you could be in trouble if your opponent is going for FC and you didn't do enough damage. Whereas if you go for fast castle play here or something similar, it's a little bit more dangerous, but you have a chance to put a lot more damage on top of your opponent pretty fast. Now, these trade workshops, by the way, are actually pretty helpful at walling your base. Like, that's the only positive thing I can say about them. Also, they look pretty nice. So, at this point of the game, it is even economy for both players. So, neither of them had any trouble with the T side of time, I believe. Second board is coming in here for Brew. And, well, we're probably going to see a click up at around 30, 32-ish villagers. Once the second board is in for both towns, there's players will probably think about clicking up here. I guess it depends on if you want to go for an FC as well, but in general, that's the timing for that. Anyways, neither of the players are sending out villagers to the deer here, so they're just going to ignore those. And apparently ACCM didn't even scout his deer over here and his sheep. For now, he's grouping up his scouts, and he might try to pick off a villager or so. Second board is just coming in for Brew. Looking at Brew's scouting, he is going to have pretty reasonable scouting at his part of the map, but nothing on ACCM's side just yet. And the question is where the lumber camp's at. Yeah, this is actually a pretty good one for Brew. Look at this. It's close to 3 of these little tree patches. Apparently, most of the tree patches have 3 or 4 trees on them. So, you are eventually going to pay 100 wood to drop a lumber camp on 3 trees. If you are lucky, you can get a place where you can drop it on 3 of these. But even now, this is like, what, 1000 wood, and you pay 100 wood to make the lumber camp over there. So, these wood lines are pretty annoying. Anyways, both players now grouping up their scouts, intending to pick off some villagers. None of them clicking up just yet. It's 37 villagers, so I might have underestimated their click up time here. That's actually a pretty nice wood line to find for Brew. There's basically just no great wood lines on this map. You'll have to replace your lumber camp so often. I think that this game is going to eventually be a super fast game, if you ask me. So, like, one of the players is going to lose a lot of villagers on wood line or potentially on gold. The map is just so open. Anyways, feudal age is going to be slightly better for Brew over here, and looking at his food count, considering that he still has quite a lot of sheep over here, I have a feeling he could actually pull this one off to be a fast castle rather fast. He's sending out villagers to the hunt. Yeah, he's sending villagers to gold, so he wants to click up right after hitting feudal age. Whereas for ACCM, he is not even clicking up to feudal age here, so this start looks way better for Brew. He's gonna have a better feudal age time, which means that his scouts will be stronger a little bit faster so he can try to snipe a few villagers, and ACCM is going to have a hard time stopping that until ACCM doesn't have the extra attack and speed on his own scouts. And also the castle age time is going to be way better for Brew. Like, look at the food count and the gold count. He is eventually going to go for an FC play here. Probably drop a stable, maybe over here. He might try to wall in between his bases to a certain extent. We'll see how that goes. But anyways, he has sent out 5 villagers to gold, so he definitely wants to click up right after hitting fuel. He's a little bit low on food, so he is eventually going to milk a mill on the huntables, so he doesn't have to walk all the way back. That is legit, and I think that he's gonna have just enough to click up once he drops the 2 buildings. He's a little bit low on wood, but yeah, he should be fine. Drop stable, blacksmith, and I like the idea of walling like this for him. Let's see if he can pick up a villager or 2. ACCM is now sending villagers to gold as well, so he's not going to be trailing by that much going into Castle Age, but there is still going to be a considerable difference between the 2 players. In fact, Brew is even able to squeeze in double bit axe before clicking up over here, which is pretty nice, I would say. So his start looks so much more convincing, I would say. Brew is clicking up right now. That's a pretty clean first 11 minutes for the game. Now he's just looking for villagers to snipe. That's actually a very low HP villager, so there is a reasonable chance for Brew to just try to snipe that. Not sure if he noticed him though. So ACCM might get away with this wheel here. For now, Brew is just scouting. ACCM does have his own scouts alive. I think he wants to snipe some villagers over here. He will probably try to snipe a villager on the hunt, because if you kill the villager on the hunt, he's going to lose all the food that he has on him. And indeed, that's minus 30 food as well for Brew. He tried to quick wall that villager and didn't succeed at doing so, but now that scout should die. Brew might lose another villager over here though, he's already behind by 2. And indeed, another villager bites the dust. Not ideal for Brew, I would say. And ACCM, on the other hand, might lose his scout. Nope, Brew is not jumping into TC over here because he's busy microing his own units against ACCM's villagers. He also lost 1 scout, but he's bringing in some additional ones, so he doesn't want to wait until Castle Age with the pressure. He's already bringing in some scouts. I think Bloodlines would be super helpful here for him, but for now he's just going for the scout numbers. There is 2 low HP villagers over here that could be easily picked off. Indeed, Brew is going for one of those, snipes 1. He's still behind by 3 villagers, but another one here is pretty easy to kill. So second stable is up, and let's see if it's Knights or Step Lancers. I think it should be Knights for Brew, and he still has 3 scouts alive, so I actually like his position a lot better here. Looking at ACCM, he has double bit axe but no horse color, and well, for now he's just going to be starting to drop farms. I think ACCM will have to open with camels. He's not that much behind in cast stage time, only 30 seconds, but still he will probably have to open with 1 or 2 camels to deal with the initial Knights of his opponent. And for Brew, he actually goes Step Lancers here. Interesting decision. They're not bad, but Knights in a head-on fight are just a little bit more scary, I would say. That's another villager that is killed from ACCM, so villager count is dead even for both players. And I don't think that those scouts will be able to kill any more villagers. Maybe 1 more, if you micro this right. That's a Bloodline scout, so it should have the chance to kill a few. And now the Step Lancers are coming in for ACCM. Those are Knights. Turn on the updated technology, please. You mean this? It's just blocking so much from the screen. That's why it's usually turned off. Like, I could use it, but once again, it's blocking a lot of the screen. Anyways, that is another 3 villagers killed from ACCM. He's falling behind by a few. In a head-on engagement, Knights should be able to clap Step Lancers, but there is no Bloodlines on these Knights, only just forging. Brew, on the other hand, this is Brew's only gold mine, and now he has to run for his life. This is going to go down to 0 villagers on gold for Brew in a moment, and that's actually pretty bad. Luckily for him, he can actually apply a lot of pressure to ACCM's base. ACCM dropped the third TC, so he's gonna have some safe wood income over here. A few more villagers are getting killed on both sides, and the problem here for Brew is that he doesn't have any safe gold income. So he's gonna drop the TC on this wood line and the stone, so maybe we are going to see a Kipchak switch in the long run. But both of the gold mines from Brew are being hit by Knights, and all of the advantage that he had going into Castle Age might fade away because of that. Because he's just gonna get overrun by knights and potentially a few camels and step lancers if he doesn't have gold income. He needs some kind of gold income for himself. A few camels here should be fine, but he has already fallen behind quite heavily in terms of gold income, which is going to be a problem. Loses the step lancers to the TC fire, once again, not ideal. At the end of the day, he's still leading by 2 villagers, and he also has horse color on his farms, which is a massive advantage over ACCM, who probably has the most inefficient wood line in the history of Age of Empires 2, and now is being hit on his own gold mine as well. As I said, this is a super aggressive map over here. ACCM might want to keep a few camels back at home for just defending. Same applies for Brew, just so he can push away the random step lancers and knights raiding. For now, military numbers are way better for ACCM over here. One thing that's surprising to me, okay, there is a TC on the gold mine, or at least close to the gold mine. I just wanted to say that I was actually surprised there is no TC on the gold mine for Brew. He made it on the wood line and the stone over here, which is nice, but he's gonna need some safe gold income. Still, he's going to win this fight pretty decisively, I believe. He's got bloodlines and +1 armor, and on the other hand, these step lancers have +1 attack only, but no bloodlines just yet for ACCM. So 69 to 64 is the villager count, but way better eco upgrades for Bro. He's got Taboso, he's got Horse Color. Other side, there isn't really a lot of pressure from Brew towards ACCM's eco anymore, so he's just pretty much defending with camels here. But he's doing so quite nicely. The market comes in here, is pretty much going to block some entry into the base of Brew here, and now his gold mine here is safe. I feel like ACCM will not be able to sustain spamming step lancers into the camels of Brew, so I actually like the camels from Brew a little bit better. ACCM doesn't have any villagers on stone, whereas for Brew he's now adding villagers to stone, so there is a chance he's going to try and switch to Kipchaks, which will be a pretty devastating force if he can mass a decent amount of them. Once again, decent fight for Brew over here. ACCM is going to lose the step lancers. There's still a few knights over here that could deny a wood line in the future, and this low HP scout is still running around, by the way. Hey Liquid Act product, welcome. So, for the villager lead right now, populations and military count is pretty similar for both players, but the eco upgrades are a lot worse for ACCM, and that's going to have its effect. Nice move with the knights, will maybe pick off a villager. Nope, not so fast, says Bro. And now Bro's eco is just completely fine. He is going to be playing on 4 TCs. He's gonna have his eco defended. ACCM is playing with 3 town centers only. And now he's making his own camels. But those camels are lacking bloodlines. Those camels are lacking armor upgrades. They do have +1 attack though, so that compensates for the +1 armor. For ACCM, it's somewhat surprising that Brew went for armor upgrade first. Because normally, if you talk about cavalry fights, you wanna have the attack upgrade first, and not the armor upgrade. Alright, so... once again, okay engagement over here for Brew. I don't think ACCM will be able to do a lot of damage with these attacks. Like, it's just a few cavalry, and Brew can just reinforce the front line pretty easily over here. By the time these units trade off with each other, ACCM is gonna have some more reinforcements in here. Now, he needs a few more camels, and now he's making knights. Takes a fight over here, nothing really important over there. But yeah, it's a little bit surprising that Brew stopped producing camels here, because he needs camels to defend against ACCM's aggression. Now it's 10 on stone. So we're getting close to the first castle being dropped by Brew. Still, it's going to take quite a lot of time until he switches into Kipchak, so he needs to survive until then. But the ACCM, on the other hand, needs a lot of eco upgrades. So yeah, like, these lumber camps are so annoying, by the way, for players. You have to replace those so frequently, and that just takes away even more of your time, and it just requires even more macro. So, what I like about being able to drop a castle here for not just Brew, but ACCM as well, who also has 500 stone in the bank, is that it's going to protect a significant portion of your base. So, like, TCs are helpful, but I feel like a defensive castle is going to be super helpful at just protecting a certain part of your base. and that helps quite a bit in a such open map, I would say. It is a lot more helpful than it is in a little bit more closed maps, including Arabia. So on this open map, defensive castles I think a little bit more important than they are on Arabia. Anyways, even more eco upgrades coming in here for Brew. He's just gonna go the ultimate Kuman Boomer. And he's coming in with a raid here, but I don't think he's going to find a lot of villagers to kill. In exchange, ACCM actually picks off 3 villagers at minimum. Still an 8 villagers lead right now for Brew, and those camels died super fast here. ACCM doesn't have any armor up on those knights, or the camels, or step lancers. They just got absolutely massacred. On the other hand, ACCM is losing some villagers on the gold mine apparently, and well, he's behind by 10 villagers, massively out-teched over here in terms of economy. All the Castle Age eco upgrades are basically there for Brew, whereas for ACCM, he just has double bit axe and that is it. Not looking great for ACCM right now, and 24 on stone right now for Brew. Here's the first castle, protecting basically the central entry into his base. I feel like a castle over here would have been a little bit better, just so you can cover this entire area, but yeah, I think that this is actually a beautiful castle for Brew. He's gonna have this part of the base protected by TCs. He's gonna have the center protected by a castle. Left side also has some TCs over here, so I actually like this one quite a bit. And apparently he's going to send quite a lot of villagers to wood now, so indeed Kipchak switch is going to happen. Lowers the amount of villagers on stone because you're already at like 26 or so. The camels here are just pretty much chilling close to the stone mine. They might kill a few villagers if Brew wants to take that, but for now they are not really impactful. And for ACCM, he's got 22 on stone as well, so here comes the castle, something that will be spotted by Brew, I believe, pretty fast. Kills the monk that were trying to get the relics. And now, Brew could take an even fight over here against the camels. If he can keep the knights alive, they can do quite a lot of damage, but the knights are just going to be sacrificed here so the camels don't get converted. Monk is going to die, and the knight apparently is going to be able to run away, so that was actually an acceptable trade for Brew, and he doesn't want to wait. He wants another castle over here right in the face of ACCM. A little bit ambitious, but he might be able to get that up. Over here, makes Kipchaks, goes into Imperial, but no fletching, no ballistics, no nothing for those Kipchaks just yet, so he's gonna need a lot of time until he gets decent upgrades for those guys. Might actually do some raiding damage at the back of ACCM's base over here. Now, that castle is gonna turn into a doubt castle. As I said, it was a little bit too ambitious from Brew here. Didn't even try quick walling his villagers, that's the surprising thing. If you make a forward castle like this, and you're like, okay, I don't have my army here, then you probably want to at least try to wall your villagers in, even preemptively. Or at least just make, I don't know, house here, so, you know, some part of your villagers are covered. Anyways, there is quite a lot of monk arenas. Kipchaks will try to snap those monks. That's where you start with. And then, I think Brew wants to take this engagement. Castle goes up. Not the best engagement ever for Brew, but he's gonna have a decent advantage going into Imperial here, which means that he's gonna have the first trap out. If this castle goes up, indeed the castle goes up. ACCM, nice reaction, he's gonna drop a second castle. He knows that he needs a second castle, so he can actually take the trap fights. Meanwhile, there is actually some raiding being done here on the right side. Both players dropping their second castle over here. Brew will need to pull a few more villagers if he wants to really repair against traps, because 6 villagers aren't really enough. And, well, Kipchak arenas in increasing numbers for Brew, but still missing quite a significant amount of important upgrades for these boys. So, on the right side, these guys are still running around trying to get some villagers killed. 22 villagers only on wood for Brew, whereas there's 31 for ACCM. Now, Kipchaks cost wood, and the fact that you have to replace your mining camp so frequently makes massing Kipchaks pretty hard, as a counterattack comes in here from ACCM. Apparently, Brew wants to add quite a lot of light cav over here, potentially to do some more raiding. And on the other hand, we are going to have quite a lot of Kipchaks moving in for ACCM. This could do quite a lot of damage here on this gold mine. Imp is there for Brew, and he should be cancelling these Kipchaks and making traps. You need the traps as fast as possible, because you just allowed ACCM to get up to Imperial, and you haven't been making a trap on this castle. That's a mistake from Brew. I guess he's busy not dying over here and busy not dying over here, but still, if you just look at the principles, that is not something that should happen, and indeed Brew has to abandon his gold mine for some time. Here come the first traps for him being set up, but look at ACCM. He's already gonna have his first 2 traps out, so even though he was later to Imperial, he's still going to have more reasonable trap numbers, and those raids are doing an awful lot of damage on Brew's Eco, who apparently has a massive overboom, because even after losing what seems like 10, 15, maybe even 20 villagers, he's still at 140 villas, which is ridiculous. He's got a decent force here that could still kill some villagers from ACCM though, but he needs to do something to clean this one up. And, well, for now, he's going to start dropping his traps, but only 1 trap is firing, the other one is just sitting there chilling. So he needs to address this ASAP, because ACCM seems like he's winning this trap fight, and if ACCM wins this trap fight, I think he's gonna have the advantage in this game, because being able to control this hill is going to be super impactful. And look at that, it's going to be free traps. Free traps are being set up as well, but eventually ACCM can repair the castle, whereas Brew cannot, so that is going to be 1 castle dead for Brew. ACCM is eventually going to lose that castle as well, because I think that like 10 villagers aren't enough to repair against free traps, but it's going to take some time until this castle goes down. I think Brew is going to lose the other castle by then. Hey Ducks, welcome. So, Kipchak's trying to do some raiding damage over here now that the villagers are even, but ACCM is just doing a better job at raiding right now, and more importantly taking this fight. Indeed, look at that, by the time the second castle goes down from Brew, ACCM is just about to lose the first one, and that's perfectly fine for him because he can rebuild this castle later on, and he still has 1 more over here to secure that foothold. Now, Brew, for whatever reason, has a bunch of villagers over here on the left side, only 6 villagers on stone, which is surprising because you want to have quite a lot of villagers on stone so you can make more castles to produce Kipchak at. But for now, he's busy not dying on his gold mine, trying to clean this one up as best as he can with the camos. Cumans don't get heavy camo here, so that's not an option for Brew. He still has the score lead, but I feel like he's a little bit on the back foot. He's got the militia number advantage, but his eco has suffered quite badly, and his gold mine is still dangerously open. Like, a castle here would be so important for him, I believe. Anyways, he's making some light cav to do some raining damage. ACCM also suffered from quite a lot of villagers killed. And it turns out that this actually is a super long game over here. Well, not super long, but 37 minutes for a double OTC start is actually something you can consider to be long indeed. As expected, ACCM rebuilt his castles. Right now, Brew has 2 castles to produce Kipchak at, actually 3. Whereas for ACCM, that's 2 free as well, I believe. Nice raids over here from Brew, and look at all those villagers chopping the trees all the way through the map. Because there's just so many things to do that you don't have time to always replace lumber camps. And that being said, Brew is doing a decent job raiding over here. Tumbling comes in here quite fast for Brew, who already has elite Kipchak here as well. ACCM has way worse upgrades, look at that. It's +6 armor for Brew, only +2 for ACCM. No elite Kipchak here. I don't think that he has Tumbling, so this is actually a reasonable fight for Brew, even though he's fighting up hills. ACCM is firing down hills to try and take down those traps. Brew needs to repair those. If he loses 1 more trap, he's not going to be able to kill that castle. 14 villagers is enough to repair against 2 traps, especially if they are firing up hills. So there's actually a mistake from Brew that he doesn't have anything that can repair those traps with. Now, he's still fine, because now he's raiding with the camos, raiding with the light cav. ACCM's food eco is pretty much crippled, which is going to make it very hard for him to just rebuild his eco if he loses further villagers. All the traps are going down here, and suddenly Brew is turning this one around. He's losing a lot of villas on his own gold mine, but he still has 34 villas on gold, and look at the amount of Kipchaks that he's having. And look at the amount of damage he's doing with them. He's killing quite a lot of villagers from ACCM, who has pretty low villager count on food. So remassing those walls is going to be pretty tough, and those are archer ranges, potentially for skirms, which is a very, very bad sign on such an open map for a Kuman player, because it appears that ACCM is going to get outmassed in terms of Kipchak numbers. 68 to 14 is the military numbers, 200 pop against 120, and ACCM is going to acknowledge his defeat over here, and that is game number 2 as well in the favor of Brew. He takes 2 in a row away from ACCM. He played pretty well against Classic Pro. Classic Pro is probably a weaker player than Brew overall, but still, he just absolutely smashed Classic Pro in the previous round, and he's showing why. He's actually playing pretty nicely, and honestly, this didn't go down to a 2TC start. this was pretty much a late game Kuman versus Kuman scenario on such an open map. And remember that Brew is actually a pretty decent deathmatch player. And such maps on deathmatch are pretty common. Kuman mirrors on deathmatch are also super common, so this like late Imperial matchup is actually pretty familiar for Brew. As he is going to grab game number 3 over here in this best of 5. KD is massively in disfavor. Fun fact, only 5 buildings were raised by Brew, and even more interesting, ACCM destroyed 2 buildings. Both of those buildings were castles from Brew. That's actually interesting. Take a look at ACCM did a nice job collecting relics, though 1.2k gold from that is always nice to have. So, with that in mind, we're gonna have one more map from the map pack, which is a random map and random mirror civilizations for the 2 players. And then, if we go into game number 5, that's going to be an Empire Wars double TC start between the 2 players. I'm actually super curious about that. ACCM is a beast in Empire Wars, but like Empire Wars double TC start is like an absolute madness. I have no idea what to expect there. I'm actually curious because never seen one like that, and we're gonna have a pretty interesting Civ matchup here. Boom, wrong one. So, Britain mirrors. So far, every game we have seen, it's pretty much cavalry civ. Like Chinese have decent cavalry, Indians have decent cavalry, Kumans have decent cavalry. And the reason why you want cavalry civs is because you need to be able to defend both of your bases. So you need a fast army that can move from one side of the map to the opponent to the other side of the map pretty fast. Here, Britain's one of the slowest armies in the game, so I'm actually super curious how this is going to shape out, even without knowing the exact map, because as you see, it's just map pack right now. So once we see the map, we're going to be a little bit more familiar with the situation, but regardless, that's going to be interesting to take a look at. Technically, I can see Britain's working with knights here. If it's a super open map, I can see that happening. Just because being able to run away with your knights, even though those are not amazing for Britons by any means, and your cavalry line is not something that you want to tech into in a super long game, the thing is that the mobility advantages could be so big that it could overshadow the fact that Britons have a great archer line. Alright, so here it is. Brew versus ACCM, double cup. This is the winner's bracket, so the loser goes down to loser's bracket. This is a double elimination tournament. And the winner is gonna go into the winner's bracket semifinals, if I'm not mistaken. So, let's go. And we have interesting. What is this map? This map has outposts everywhere apparently. So you have some roads in between the 2 TCs of the players. I have no idea how this map is called because it's not actually listed over here. You can see it's just Double Cup Map Pack version 2. But let's be honest. This map, once again, has super low amounts of wood. At least you can place lumber camps at reasonable places like this one. But once again, a very low wood count for this map. You're gonna have apparently 1 elephant, 2 elephants per town center. So seems like Standard Arabia starts in terms of other resources. It's just the lack of wood once again that's going to be interesting. I actually like the cosmetic value for these roads connecting the 2 town centers. This reminds me a little bit to Team Islands, something that Team Islands has, is a connection between 2 TCs with roads. Random roads scattered all around is weird though. Anyways, we have a Britain mirror over here. As I said, the map is enough, or like open enough to justify a cavalry play from either side. Those woods look like baobab trees? No, they're not baobab. These are acacia. No, actually, I think there are some acacia trees, but most of these are the Mediterranean things. Is Budapest on the map pool? Not sure. I think it might be, but I have no official confirmation on that. Like, Budapest is indeed the most standard double TC map that's actually in the game. And I think the only double TC map that you have built into the game. Let's see. So... Nope, believe it or not, Budapest is not in the map pool, which is weird. I'm trying to figure out which map this could be from the list, but I have no idea. I think the previous one was called Bazaar War, because you had those trade workshops. Maybe Syrian Steppe could be an idea. I don't know. Like, it's very hard to guess which map is which, because these maps are pretty much all unique. Like, I've never actually seen this one being used in a tournament, and that has its reasons, mainly because these wood lines are pretty annoying for the players, and players don't like to play these in big tournaments. Anyways, let's see the plays for our players. Technically, you can open scouts as well. Once again, not necessarily the best thing to do, but you could potentially... What is this Borler? What is this Borler for bro? Luckily, he has Loom, and he saves that villager in the final second. He was probably busy with the other town center or something like that, but that could have been a disaster Borler for him. Basically, what you do is click to the other side of the TC when you are luring in the board, so the villager doesn't stop. However, he, I think, clicked a little bit too far away, so by the time he noticed that this villager was under attack, he had to walk all the way back. So when I'm luring in boars, I'm not sure if that's the right thing to do, but I always click, like, if I'm luring from this direction, I click over here, because then I'm still close to the TC if the villager starts fighting with the boar at the end of the day. Alright, this one, once again, is a dead villager. Now, it is super hard to manage two town centers at the same time, so... Really, this is going to happen. Even Mr. Yo and Dogao lost quite a lot of villagers in AoE Olympics to boars. In double TC starts, it happens. This is the first time, though, we are seeing villagers lost to boars in this series. Is this new maps? Yes, these are, I think, all new maps. Or at least the majority of them are new. I'm not sure who made them. It might have been Curzini, but once again, I'm not 100% sure. I'm not even sure where they got these maps from, to be honest. Like, there is so many unique maps. Maybe they just looked around in old maps. Like, when I did Tupos, speaking of Tupos, I also looked around in AoE 2 map lists for, like, old maps. Maps were used, like, 10 years ago in tournaments. To see if there is anything that could be interesting, draw some inspiration for some new maps from those. So maybe they dug out some very old maps from some repository, converted them to definitive edition, and that's that. Alright, 4 villagers being sent to gold over here for Brew. He still has 21 on foot, should be enough to click up into Castle Age immediately. So there is a legitimate chance we are going to see our fast castle play over here for probably knights. If you play fast castle, you probably want to go knights, because like going for a fast castle play like this and going into 5 crossbows is pretty much useless. So you probably want to go knights to start the day with first then. Little pond, trees, gold, and bushes together look like a cute little grow. Yeah, indeed. Nice little place over here. Anyways, Feudal Age is going to be slightly faster over here for Bro, who also lames a few sheep. And now he could try... Actually, ACCM... Whose sheep are these? Are these neutral sheep or what? Because those are very far away from ACCM, and I'm actually surprised. Yeah, those look like neutral sheep, to be honest, which makes Britain's a pretty decent civ over here in terms of early food eco, and ACCM just completely missed out on those. He would have had like 3 more sheep, which would have been helpful because he's running out of sheep already by now. Alright, bro, looking at the food count, might need to idle thesis for a brief moment to be able to click up immediately, but he's going to be fully evolved and he goes for a stable. As expected, probably he's going to try to do the same thing he did in the previous games, add like 1 or 2 more scouts, and already start applying pressure in, like, while he's going up. So, click up should happen any moment, unless... Okay, he's got the gold for it. I was scared for a moment he only has 70 gold, but apparently he already queued up Castle Age, so that's why. And he should be able to squeeze out Double bit axe horse color here pretty fast. He's got a lot of wood in the bank, which surprises me, so probably second stable and then 2 TCs play is going to be happening. With Britons you can squeeze in another TC, although the food eco is a matter of question, so you could have 4 TCs pretty easily here with Britons, but I'm not sure if you're gonna have the food eco to make all of those work. Now, why is Brew not going for double bit axe here? He went for horse color, goes for wheelbarrow, but no double bit axe. That's weird. Scaleboarding now. Okay, now double bit axe comes in. Okay, so for ACCM, he's also on the way to cast Lage. There's a 1 minute difference between the two players. Ecos are looking slightly better for ACCM, though. He doesn't have wheelbarrow, but he didn't lose a Voyager to Boiler, so at the end of the day, it appears that there's a slightly better eco for ACCM. Even if he makes wheelbarrow, he should have, I think, 1 Voyager lead or so. Anyways, what is ACCM's plan? He's going for the Archer play. Now, Britain ranges work faster, so that helps a tiny bit at massing your archers, but still, it's going to take quite a lot of time until you can get that out. And my problem with this play is that you have your archers here. Nice. What a Bro is going to do is make a defensive siege workshop here and send knights to this base. And this base is going to be completely open to knights raiding. Is this RO? This is round of 8. So, not really quarterfinals because this is the winner's bracket in the double elimination tournament, but pretty much there is 8 players left in the winner's bracket. Alright, there is 1 Voyager picked off already. A second one is gonna go down thanks to Brew's scouts. I actually like the scaleboarding here first against Britons, and I'm not sure if he actually scouted the ranges. He didn't do that just yet. So he is going to be blind on the ranges for some time, but he's going to hit the gold mine, so it doesn't really matter. And ACCM will have like 5 archers or 5 crossbows without ballistics. That's not great. I actually like Knights play a lot better here. It's a tricky Civ matchup here, but you probably want to have the mobility, because even if these crossbows come in here and try to defend, Knights can just run to the other base and kill Villagers. Now it's a 2 Villagers lead for Brew, and he also has wheelbarrow, whereas ACCM does not. At some point, Brew is going to see the crossbows coming his way. He sees the range, so he should know that the crossbows are coming out. And indeed, this could be a little bit problematic, but no ballistics just yet for ACCM, so Villagers can just run away from that. And like Knights with +2 armor should be able to deal with like 6 crossbows or so. Defensive Siege Workshop could also work, or just TCs. Indeed, there's going to be 4 TCs very soon for Brew, who is forcing ACCM off from gold. Right now, this is looking way better for Brew, who could potentially win this series over here 3-1, which would be pretty impressive, I would say, because ACCM is a beastly player. Way better eco upgrades right now. ACCM is gonna go for 4 TCs himself, but Knights are coming back to the gold mine. I actually like the play here for ACCM to send these crossbows to the other base, maybe pick off a few Villagers, but once again, without ballistics you will probably not be able to kill a lot, and in the meanwhile, Knights, they just have so much more impact in early cast stage unless they are chilling like that close to the gold mine. Hello? Like that. Okay, finally, thank you. So, basically Knights will just have a much more immediate impact in cast stage. They require a lot less upgrades to become very, very deadly killing machines. Like, their base attack is much higher, you have the mobility component over here as well. Whereas for crossbows, you need to get, yeah, they were on stand ground, that's right. So, they need to get, not just the botkin, but more importantly, ballistics is what you really need to start killing Villagers in masses. Otherwise, Villagers will run away and archers will just miss most of the shots. So, Knights can do a lot more immediate damage. Now, that being said, that is an 11 Villagers lead right now for Brew. Knights will eventually wait until +2 armor kicks in for Brew and then try to take this fight. This is a nice position to camp for ACCM though, with a nice little choke point. A little bit of a premature engagement for Brew, something I don't like here. Fights before getting the +2 armor, doesn't really matter though. And now he forces ACCM to run away from that wood line. Probably not a great engagement for Brew, but he's idling quite a lot of wheels and he already has 13 Villagers lead. Look at that Villager idle time difference. 1 hour 10 minutes already. For ACCM, 37 minutes for Brew. A lot more efficient eco for our Brazilian, as he's getting closer and closer to winning this series here. After, I think, losing game number 1, he might have won all three if he wins this. And as I said, this is the mobility component that I'm talking about now. With TCs protecting key resources here, these knights aren't really going to do a lot of damage. But once these villagers have to crawl away a little bit further away from the TC to get this part of the wood line, knights could do quite a lot of damage. And luckily for Brew here, players start with outposts at certain positions in the middle, so he can see those crossbows coming his way, sends the knights back immediately, so he can take that fight, and he can just add knights more and more. Alright. So more and more crossbows in here, but once again, they're just gonna get pretty much overrun by +2 knights. Even without bloodlines, these are enough to pretty much clean this one up. And when that happens, once again, ACCM is losing quite a lot of archers here. Nice choke point that he's choosing once again. Like, he is really positioning his crossbows exceptionally well. It's just about the fact that his army is slow and he doesn't really have the time to mass them in large quantities. Knights once again inside the eco, and basically all that Brew needs to do is just keep raiding, because ACCM will not be able to catch up in military speed. What you're seeing here, by the way, is actually a pretty comparable thing to how Age of Empires 3 games shape out in the majority of the cases. So in Age of Empires 3, you very frequently see the cavalry raid versus the infantry component. And usually the player with the decent cavalry raids can edge out the game just because of the fact that he can just run away from any engagement and he can just keep applying pressure, whereas the opponent is just unable to do any damage to the eco of the opponent. Like, see? ACCM with the crossbows here, he doesn't have ballistics because that takes a lot of resources to get to. You need university, you need to get ballistics himself, so takes a lot of time and resources to get into ballistics, and in the meanwhile, Brew just has a much easier time massing knights. He's eventually going to start adding crossbows, but he already managed to crawl out a huge eco lead for himself. We're talking about 20 villagers, and we didn't even talk about all the eco upgrades that is missing for ACCM compared to Brew. So now an even archer fight should be reasonable. I actually like Brew switch back into archers now because you can't sustain a knight's play. So as tempting as it is to keep playing with knights and just try to raid your opponent to death, at some point you're gonna have to switch into archers, just because your Imperial Age army is going to be composed of archers and not knight arenos. So interesting house placement over there from Brew. I feel like he's just afraid that he's gonna get housed in a brief moment, so he's just spamming houses here. I actually didn't upgrade the command here. Give me a moment to do that. But by the way, you see every information you need somewhere on the overlay, like civilizations and whatnot. So the updated match command isn't really important now. What is important is this one, and it appears that this is going to be a fight that could decide the outcome of the game. Oh boy, that cast, I think both of those will go up. Brew is losing a lot of villagers though, and he's losing the majority of his farming eco here, so most of his villager lead is just now gone. It's castle versus castle. The hill advantage is on the side of ACCM, but I think that it doesn't matter in a castle versus castle fight like that. And this should be petard wars, something that ACCM is not doing. ACCM is not making petards. Brew is doing the right thing. Castles are a little bit too far away for a lot of petards, but you might be able to get a few of them in here. And looking at the militia numbers, those are getting decent. I'm not sure why Brew unpopped this single first petard. He needs to group up his petards, and now he has shown his hand, so ACCM is also going to make a longbow after finishing the castle, and now he's going to make the petards. Oh, what is Brew doing? He must not ungarrison. Oh, I see. He's got 19 villagers inside the castle. And he doesn't have space for the petards. That's a huge mistake. That's an enormous mistake. He's just unable to mass petards, and that's something that ACCM will be able to do, and he can take a reasonable engagement over here. Now, the eco of ACCM is still under heavy pressure, but it doesn't matter if this castle goes down for Brew. If this castle goes down, most of his farming eco is going to die. So, this could still be anyone's game. And that's a lot of crossbows now. Bro doesn't really have a huge amount of cavalry in the party. He still has the eco upgrades. Like, he has a massive eco lead. But ACCM, if he plays fast here, and he can start killing villagers on both of these DCs, that could be great. Imagine if he had ballistics here. If he had ballistics, he would be killing a lot more villagers. But he's idling villagers from Brew on the wood line. Brew has to run away. He has the wood upgrade, but it doesn't matter if you don't have your villagers on wood. And ACCM, on the other hand, massing more petards. Petards are coming in here for Brew as well. I think if ACCM loses this castle, he will eventually lose the game, because then Brew is going to be able to reclaim this part of his base, get the crossbows out, and eventually trade evenly. In fact, now the crossbows are coming in here for Brew. He's got +1 armor, same for ACCM, but he's also got the hill. Should be a relatively even trade at the end of the day, but it's just much easier for Brew to mass the archers, and ACCM is not making any more petards. I feel like Brew might have weathered the storm here, because if he can get like 6, 7... I'm not sure what the critical mass is for petards, especially considering that you are going to be walking quite a significant distance in this castle fight. And this castle is also up hills, and I'm not sure if that matters for petards, but it might, that you're actually attacking from this side, so you're pretty much attacking up hills. I have no idea if like hill deficit is actually something that matters against petards. But anyways, ballistics is in for both players, but once again, this is an even trade. Still, the eco lead is massively in the favor of Brew. Military numbers are pretty close, and as I said, he's going to be able to take this castle down. Here he comes, and that is enough to knock that castle down, which means that ACCM loses his foothold over here, and for now, he's gonna drop another castle. Brew getting close to clicking into Imperial though, so I don't think he can stop this castle specifically, but he could make another castle himself somewhere around over here. Indeed, he's even going to take the hill and just go up into Imperial, start trapping this one down. Right side, ACCM securing that wood line for himself. A lot of farming space is denied from Brew, but indeed, he is going to get Imperial. I think he clicked up and then cancelled it, so maybe he went for it on this DC, and he wants to make sure he uses this DC, which is... Actually, which is the one he's using? Yeah, he should be using this back DC for imping. So, ACCM opening up the way, and he's now making longbows. Military numbers looking slightly better for ACCM right now. Longbows are also out for Brew on the right side. One of my favorite units as a kid. Longbows are just amazing. So, look at ACCM. He just destroyed those walls at the castle so he can fit all the villagers on stone here. That's like crazy. Anyways, there is no Imperial Age on the horizon for ACCM in the next 20, 30, 40 seconds. He's eventually going to click up, like looking at those resources, but his eco upgrades are still quite lacking, and eventually the castle for Brew here is going to be able to protect the traps. There is like 0 trap snipe potential for ACCM. And, oh, I also like this play here. Quite a lot of those villagers are fairly low in HP, so a lot of them could die to just a few longbows. And here it comes, another castle being dropped. Remember, there isn't really a huge amount of wood on this map. So, I like that ACCM is keeping these wood lines intact and he's using the front wood. So he's gonna have some reserves at the back, whereas for Brew, he was using up the reserves at the back. So now he's gonna have to aggressively expand towards other wood lines. And I think both of these will go up. Alright. ACCM is gonna have the faster castle here, but yeah, both of those will go up. The petards! The petards are coming in just in time, and one of them is actually going to connect, dealing quite a significant amount of damage. Once again, this is going to be a race for petards, I believe. Indeed, ACCM is already making petards. Brew, not so much. Gets up to Imperial. Trap immediately coming in here for him, so he can start trapping that castle down. Brew not making petards over here. ACCM, what is that petard doing? The barrel boy is just moving to the other side of the map for now. ACCM is also on the way to Imperial. Quite a lot of crossbows on this hill for Brew, who's just getting Arbalest upgrade, and the Bracer. He already has +2 armor, so this is by far not a great fight for ACCM, but that's just going to be worse. So, now it's Arbalest with 10 range, they have +2 armor, they have Bracer, Chemistry might come in any moment, whereas for ACCM he needs to wait until he gets it. And Britain Cav Archers, ladies and gentlemen, something that you don't often see. That is... once again, ACCM is just losing so many archers, he's behind by 10. And he is not making any petards. In the meanwhile, he's not doubling down on this castle just yet. He has the stone to make a second castle. He has the stone to repair this. And I think he should allocate some of these villagers to repair. It's a one trap firing downhill, so 10 villagers should be sufficient repairing. You divert these guys in here, and you try to keep that castle up as much as possible. Bros has a trap over here on the right side, and ACCM is looking like he's in trouble. He's got the eco lead now in terms of villager numbers, but still the upgrades are quite lacking, and he is losing this castle. He's about to lose this castle, which is just not looking great. Even the lions are against him. And I feel like ACCM might have given up on this castle a little bit too easily. Maybe he is busy not dying to these arbalasts, raiding his eco. I can imagine that, but that should be 10 dead villagers if Brew notices, and he did. There is no hope for those villagers to run away from those arbs with that huge range. Right side also the castle is collapsing for ACCM, and ACCM has only 14 villagers on wood compared to 35, and it's going to be insanely hard to mass archers when your opponent forces you off from wood. Now chemistry is on the way, but elite longbow, interestingly for Brew. Not necessarily a fan of that idea, but now ACCM is losing all these villagers on the stone as well. And it feels like ACCM is going to drop to the losers bracket. I thought that this series is going to be interesting, and indeed it did become interesting. But I thought that ACCM eventually is going to edge out victory. Turns out that Brew is pretty solid in the double TC start over here, and he's going to advance into the winners bracket semifinals. That being said, this is a double elimination tournament, so ACCM will still have his chance in the losers bracket. I think the prize pool is somewhere around $400, which is a little bit of a shame because I feel like double TC start is a fun one. It's a pretty crazy settings, and I'm also not the biggest fan of the map pool necessarily because some of these maps are just weird. But the setting itself, to have two TCs starting, is just actually super fun, I believe. It tweaks games quite heavily, and sometimes makes players who are usually underdogs in standard 1v1s become favorite players. So, right now it's longbows on the right side, and, well, TC is going down. Arbs are still in here, so ACCM is just dropping in villager counts super rapidly. Light Cav is now coming in to raid. Britain Light Cav is pretty poor, but it's still Light Cav, and it's still going to kill your villagers, so Brew's eco upgrades are looking pretty solid and pretty sick. ACCM is gonna call it, and with that, Brew wins 3-1 against ACCM after losing game number 1. Pretty convincing play, I have to say, for Brew over here. Indeed, as Brew appears on the chat, indeed 6 hours of villager idle time, 1 hour of TC idle time as well. 81 villagers killed, 57 lost. That's actually a pretty important stat over here for the players. And look at this. I actually like that there is now tooltips popping out. So value spent and destroyed. Basically, if I understand these numbers correctly, Brew destroyed 20,000 resources worth of units. ACCM only did 13,000 destruction. But this might also include buildings. So all these castles going down might also be included in those stats. So GG's to Brew, and he is advancing into the next round. The opponent for Brew in the next round is going to be Xiam, who is a very, very long time player of Age of Empires. I think Xiam has been playing ever since Doubt has been playing. So Brew should be the favorite in that one, but Xiam is a solid player, so that's going to be interesting to take a look at here as well. Katie is in the favor of Brew, but I feel like what really mattered is the early night raids. I just like the knights opening a lot more than I do with the crossbow opening. I feel like it's a little bit of a gamble, and you need to be able to make the tech switch into crossbows at some point, and you need to do damage with the cavalry. But if you can do damage with the cav, it is going to be something that is better than archer play, because you will have the mobility, you will have a unit that has a much more immediate impact than crossbows do, and you can just come around and raid all you can. So with that, Brew gets into the semifinals. Congrats.